tough times make strong men, strong men make easy times make weak men.
The guys who are working a job and rodeoing on the weekends are not trying to make a living rodeoing, they're just trying to keep their money together. How do you qualify? How do you get into a Honda? And we don't have any control over who gets invited. For the record,
right? That's not us. I'm going to say there are going to be a handful of young bull riders that aren't going to be coming back.
The Honda has done such a good job of setting its culture where people do get there for the rodeo. Houston, that's just the norm.
Okay, howdy, and welcome back to the WeaverRiggs show. It's been a minute, but you know what? We have some good stuff we've been cooking up for you guys. So, Jordan, how's life right now? What's going on in your world?
It's awesome. It's awesome. I'll tell you what has not changed for me since New Orleans is that this is working. It's going to work. It feels like we're off to the races. I feel like the whole Hondo vibe internally has been just crazy positive. Everybody's got more to do than they can get to. I don't know that I really sensed it before, like that maybe there was some hesitation. People like, is this going to work? How's this going to go or whatever? And I feel like the only reason I recognize it now is because it's gone. Like there's not that feeling anymore. Like the optimism is we're running high.
Yeah. As soon as a new project, especially in this industry, opens up, there are a lot of people that'll, kind of be on the fence about it at first and wonder, okay, is this going to go well? And I think that a lot of people were in that position probably up until New Orleans, honestly, because they wanted to see how it would go opening up a new market. And here we are. We survived to tell the story, and it's going so well that we're moving forward to even looking into other markets. So I think that it's safe to say Hondo is here to stay, and it's just exciting to be a part of it.
Well, and two things to that is that, first of all, you see things come and go, right? So I understand if somebody's like, okay, it's cool, but is it going to stay? Like we've had so many things start and finish, start and end.
True.
We've had established events, and you think about like San Luis Obispo, what a big part of the rodeo season that was, and then it went away. So I can understand people kind of wanting to wait. But there's also an association once upon a time that had this giant blowout big event first, and then they couldn't give tickets away at their second one. And so where we were able to expand to a new market, the people that were like, well, maybe Phoenix is lightning in a bottle. I'm speaking on my own behalf. This is not official company. This is just Jordan. But I think there were people that were like, was it lightning in a bottle? Was it specifically Phoenix? Was it specifically November? If they were to try to do anything somewhere else, would it have the same sort of impact? And so to go to a completely new market, completely different place, different time of the year, whole new stadium, and have it go as well as it did, I think there's a lot of people that are like, okay, they can do this. This is something that they're able to do. This is something they're able to replicate. So now even the optimism for new places like Tampa, I think instead of people like wait and watch, because nobody wants to be on the boat that crashes, right?
Right.
So everybody's kind of like, okay, maybe. Like we want it to work. I think everybody wanted it to work, but I think there's an optimism of like, if they did that in New Orleans, bring on Tampa. And now we're going into our third year in Phoenix, our second year in New Orleans, our first year in Tampa. So all across the board,
right,
like wide range of like established, developing, and brand new. I'm so pumped. I'm so excited.
I am too. Well, and then here's the other thing too. As the rodeo world is shifting and changing, society and the world as we know it outside of our little bubble is changing and shifting as well. The economy, politics, trends, the world is always changing, but we kind of have to adapt and adjust accordingly because, that outside world has a big impact on what we can do on the inside of our little bubble. So let's kind of talk about, I know that your idea was to talk about how rising costs are going to affect the rodeo world this next year. And we've been through ebbs and flows through the last few decades in the rodeo world, but I think that this year is really going to be a big one when it comes down to the economy.
Something you'll see this year, especially with the timed event guys, is that if, just for simple math, I know it's not $10, but for the sake of math, if fuel was $10 a gallon and you're going alone, you're paying $10 a gallon. If you have a traveling partner, now fuel is $5 a gallon. Mm-hmm. If you have 3 people in the rig, now it's $3.30 a gallon. So right, then from there, like once it goes to 4 guys, the breakdown isn't as efficient. What I think you're going to see is a lot of 3-man groups because that's the biggest percentage break on how to share fuel, which also means this year, those little arguments, those little like screw you, get out moments might get pushed off a little bit. We might see guys with cowboy hats working out some peaceful solutions to things that are having to pay all their fuel. If fuel goes back to $3 a gallon, you're like, get out. I can't stand you. I hate how you chew with your mouth open. I think we're going to see a lot of people getting along better this year. And second thing that really stands out is I think you're going to see people prioritizing events like the Hondo where they can go and be somewhere for 3 or 4 days. You think of events like Cheyenne, no disrespect to Cheyenne, but you got to go back and forth 3 or 4 different times because you got other rodeos going on. You leave, you come back, you leave, you come back. You could invest a couple $1,000s just in fuel by the time that rodeo is over. And if you don't win anything, your fees are the cheapest part at that point. So I think you're going to see some more strategy. I think you're going to see some guys turning out, if they don't feel like they've got a chance. I think in the rough stock specifically, you're going to see a lot more animals getting turned out that are kind of maybe type animals because they draw animals in advance. It's going to show up. Like, you're going to see it. You're also going to see how much money is in the rodeo world, because every year when it's just too expensive, you're like, how are people going to do this? You find a way. Like, the sponsors are going to play a bigger role. You're probably going to see people more invested in loving on their sponsors. It'll affect the culture of rodeoing for sure.
The main two things that I foresee are, one of them you already said, they're going to prioritize bigger events like the Hondo because they're going to be looking for quality over quantity when it comes to payout. It's just easier that way. When you go to a big rodeo, it is a gamble, but if you do well enough, it's way more worth the miles that you're traveling than, the small hometown rodeos that we still love, but the payouts aren't making their time as worthwhile. And the other thing you kind of alluded to that I think is one of the other things I really foresee is rodeo athletes really stepping it up on social media like the mainstream athletes are, because they can get so many deals and partnerships through social media, and the sponsors are what are going to fill in those gaps in between, right? So those weeks that they're not winning checks, the sponsors are carrying them through or making it worth it for them to rodeo full time. So those are the two things I think we're going to see. And there's this quote, I know you've heard it before, and I'm going to make it an analogy for the rodeo world. Tough times make strong men, strong men make easy times make weak men. I think the same goes for a society. And so when we look at the rodeo world itself, tough times will make us stronger. And so as the economy tightens up and guys have to be more strategic about what they're doing with their years, I think it's going to be a good thing for us in the long run. And I really foresee the world of rodeo growing even more because we're going to be more intentional about what we're doing with our time here. And like I said, especially in the world of media, I think that guys and girls, the cowboys and cowgirls of pro rodeo are going to be trying harder to put themselves out there, make their sponsors happy. And I think that's going to help us grow a ton in the mainstream world.
I think right now would be a great time to be a content creator on behalf of someone. Because if somebody comes in and goes, I know I got to do this, but like, I'm terrible at captions, I hate doing stuff like this. There's always the Kennedy and Raylands of the world. They're like, we got you.
For sure.
I don't think this will happen. What I wish would happen is, I don't think you should ever see guys like Stetson Wright or Shad Mayfield at rodeos like my hometown rodeo, Cleveland, Texas. It's a smaller rodeo. I don't think you should ever see those guys there. I think that what they should consider, would be better, is having an actual circuit system in pro rodeo. Because right now, our circuit system, a guy from the NFR can pick an address in a different circuit and rodeo on that circuit just because he knows he's going to be there. I think the smaller rodeos, I wish they would move to more of a circuit model, because you're not going to knock your entries down that much by taking the top small percentage out of those rodeos, so that those guys show up, they feel like they've got a more competitive advantage. I think that you'd see a lot more circuit attendance at circuit rodeos if guys weren't having to butt heads with the top 15. That's just my opinion. I think there should be a circuit tier in the rodeo world, but to do that, you've got to give the guys like the Shads and the Stetsons more of a carrot at the better rodeos so they can make more of a living without having to go to the smaller rodeos. So it probably won't happen. This is a discussion that's going on forever, but I think it would be great to see that, maybe there's some actual like change at a corporate level that would really benefit. That probably won't happen. I think that the way you do that probably is by things like the Hondo, coming in and making it so good that those guys are like, we can't skip the Hondo. Right. So we're going to extract ourselves from all the rodeos that weekend and make the Hondo a priority. So I don't think that you can tell them they're not allowed to go. I just think you incentivize the better ones so much that eventually they're pulled away.
I do think that's starting to happen a little bit, especially, okay, let's talk about winter rodeos. When January, February, March roll around, you know exactly where the top 15 are going to be entered up at, where there are some hometown rodeos still happening that you're not going to see them entered at. So I think that as rodeo grows more, as the Hondo grows more, just like you said, I think that will naturally happen. The guys at the top 15, right, are going to gravitate towards these big ones like the Hondo, and leave the rest of the rodeos for the rest of the guys like the weekend warriors that aren't going to be making the top 20 every year. So I can see that happening naturally for sure.
Fort Worth should not count as a circuit rodeo if it's limited on who can enter it. Like, you're giving the big guys such an advantage at the bigger rodeos because they're allowed to enter those, and you're disqualifying the little guys who would then go support like the Weatherford, Cleburne, Coleman weekends. Those guys are just not going to go because the guys on the top 5 or 10 in their circuit already have a $15,000, $20,000 advantage. So I think it's going to be important for the sport of rodeo that the guys in the sub tiers that have jobs, that's kind of what the circuit thing was designed to do. And it's just gotten completely away from it. And so I do think there needs to be a tier system. And that's been a conversation forever. Nobody's calling me, asking me my opinion. So it's worth what you paid for it. But, yeah, I would love to see that rodeos like Denver don't count for the Mountain State Circuit. Rodeos like St. Paul don't count for the Columbia River Circuit. Those big rodeos that are limited in their entries, if you limit your entries, you should not be allowed to have your money count for a circuit rodeo.
Well, that brings up a whole other argument. You know, I was asked when I was Miss Rodeo America, if you were made the commissioner of the PRCA for one day, what's the first thing you would do? And I would go back and change my answer to this. I think this is another argument to talk about. The qualification system for big rodeos like that, or even for Cheyenne, you know, there have been some changes made to Cheyenne recently. It's really frustrating for the guys that aren't making the top 15 because it doesn't even give them a chance. And a lot of the times, in order to even make the top 15 by the end of the year, you have to have been in those big winter rodeos at the beginning of the year to set you ahead for your season. And so it's frustrating to those guys that were just outside of those numbers because they needed that to get into the numbers. And so then they're just fighting for their life to stay above water for the rest of the season because they weren't in those winter rodeos. But because they weren't in the top 15 or the top 20, top 45, whatever the number is for those specific rodeos the season before, they're not going to be in it the next year. So it's just kind of this, I don't know if you would say it's a catch-22, but it's a difficult situation that I think that needs to be changed as well, because it's really just the top guys are going to continue to be the same guys on the day sheet at those big rodeos. Doesn't give the other guys a good chance.
Well, and here's what I'll say, and I can leave it at this, is that the guys who are working a job and rodeoing on the weekends are not trying to make a living rodeoing. They're just trying to keep their money together. That's a big difference than the guys trying to make a living. So the guys trying to make a living are going to get to every rodeo. They're going to take everything they can possibly get because that's how they make a living. The guys who could just keep their money together and just, you know, maybe win a little more than they lose, or maybe just not lose quite as much because they love it. If you don't give those guys a place where they can just keep their money together, not make a living, just keep their money together, then what you're going to have is they're going to extract, they're going to go to the amateur rodeos, you're going to lose them. And overall, the PRCA is going to suffer. PRCA, if you ever hear this, and I know they watch the Honda stuff. I know they do. Some of their ideas. If the PRCA were to hear this, give your circuit guys a chance just to keep your money together. Create a system.
Right.
They don't have to get rich, where they can just keep their money together so that places like Fort Worth mean something and places like Cleburne mean something, but we understand why they're different. So I think that summarizes my point is when fuel is $5 a gallon, you're going to lose your weekend guys. Gone. They're done. There's going to be so many of them who are like, I would normally go, but I'm not driving that far. I got my
Right.
I can't afford all the extras that are going with it, because a lot of these guys, they've got kids in school, they've got jobs, they've got things that they've got to attend to. Hay cost is going up because fuel prices are going up. Like, it's just getting more expensive. You've got to figure out a way to seed money back into your circuit guys, because they are actually the backbone that makes a living for the guys who are then going to go make a living rodeoing.
I agree with that. Well, I'll go ahead. You had something to say.
So as an example, when you think of elite, one of the things I know that we're working on, and we're going to get to it in a second, but one of the things that we're constantly being asked, and I'm sure you get it too, is how do you qualify? How do you get into a Hondo? Because of course, when we start talking about this, elite level events with elite level athletes, then people are like, okay, well, then how do you determine elite? I want to go into the qualification process to the Hondo in a second, but before we do, as a segue, when you look at New Orleans, and then that was in April, that was based on qualifications leading up. They didn't take anybody because invites had already been sent out. They didn't invite anybody who had like a really, really good winner, because if you weren't on the radar like January 1st, that's when the invites went out, right? So there were a couple people that came in, had a really, really good winner, but invites had already been sent out. When you look at the difference between New Orleans in April and Phoenix in November, two questions. What is your prediction of who was at New Orleans that will not be in Phoenix? And what's your prediction for who was not at New Orleans that will be in Phoenix?
Okay. So I've been pondering on this, and both of those are hard to answer because of exactly what you just said. As of right now, as we speak, there hasn't been a qualification system or a rival reason yet specifically set to who comes to each event, right? But as soon as we have a qualification system set into place, I have no say in this anyway, but I don't think that it's going to be as easy to predict. So
hey, real quick. That's a good clarification. We don't have any control over who gets invited. For the record, we're
Right.
just
That's
people
not
talking on
us.
camera. We are not. Don't. Nobody asks us. They don't ask our opinion. I've told them I don't want to know. Like, just to be clear, like, we're going to talk about it, but that has no bearing on who actually gets invited.
And that's probably a good thing that we have
Good
zero pull in the
clarification.
game on that. But if I had to guess, when I'm thinking of who was at New Orleans who might not come back to Phoenix, the bull riding was really tough in New Orleans. There were a lot of variables that went into that, but the last night, for example, I think that there were only 2 or 3 guys, if I'm not mistaken, that actually rode their bulls. And I loved the roster that we had because it was kind of all over the place. We had some veterans who have been in the game for a lot of time. We had some rookies who were fresh on the scene. So I really like it when the roster is expanded like that, very vast. But I do think there are quite a few young guys that didn't quite prove themselves yet that won't be punching their ticket to come back. The hard part is we pull 12 from the bull riding instead of 8 like the rest of the events. We like to give the crowd a show. They come for the bull riding. They love it, right? But because we're pulling 12, we're pulling from the pro rodeo world as well as the PBR world. Come November, when it's time for Phoenix, that's a huge month for the PBR. And I don't think we're going to have as many options to pull from when it comes to the PBR guys because the World Finals are that month. Or not the World Finals, but they have a big month there in the PBR world. So
and
that will be difficult.
It's the end of the season. So those points at the PBR events matter. They can't skip them.
Exactly.
You're going to have more turnover in the bull riding based on time of the year. There's no getting around it because bull riding is the only thing that has a comparable option to go to instead of the Hondo.
Right.
There's nothing really in the rodeo world other than the NFR that you would go to instead of the Hondo. And especially in Phoenix in November where the season's already over, the PBR is specifically different. Depending on the time of the year, you're going to have more turnover because more bull riders and there is PBR events.
Yeah. And, you know, speaking of that, actually, one guy that was not at New Orleans, he was invited, but he wasn't able to be there, who I really hope is able to make it to Phoenix is John Crimber. He has been making waves. He's had a tough time. Like right now, as we record this right now, it's not going up live, but we're getting into the thick of the World Finals here in Fort Worth. And it's been a hard time for him, but I can imagine it's because he's so spread thin. He's been double dipping in both the PBR and the pro rodeo world. There's so much pressure on his shoulders, but when he comes to something like the Hondo, I think he's able to just let that pressure off because it's not going towards any standings, right? He's able to just kick back and have fun and do what he does best. So that's someone I hope will be able to pull up to Phoenix. But 2 other guys, this is fresh on my mind because I was at a rope horse futurity this last week. 2 other guys that you haven't seen on the rodeo scene much recently that I would love to see invited to make a comeback.
Can I guess? If I guess, will you tell me if I'm right?
Yes.
Is one of them Sage Kimsey?
No.
Okay.
But I do love Sage Kimsey.
Yeah.
I'm kind of pivoting from bull riding to the timed events right now because since I was at this rope horse futurity, I was reminded of all the guys that used to be thick on the rodeo scene that are now focusing on their horses and they're more heavy in the futurity world. But that still have a lot of talent. It's Cody McCartney and Trevor Brazil. And I think that goes without needing to say anything, right? Both of them are the kings of the timed event. But it's funny because you don't see Trevor entering up at rodeos anymore. He'll go to a couple amateur rodeos with his son, right? But he's not going for any more world titles. He has more than he could even count. Cody McCartney, same thing. His time is best spent in the futurity world because he's making so much money on these horses. But it would be kind of fun to see 2 guys that haven't been on the scene in a while pull up to a rodeo and compete for that kind of money because I'm kind of curious to see how they'd be able to handle the pressure compared to the guys that are still in the scene. You know what I'm saying?
Here's what I'll say to the point of a qualification system is that if you just invite Trevor, who hasn't rodeoed, you're dismissing the work that everybody's been putting in recently. Like, what have you done for me lately type stuff, right? But if you put a qualification system in place, I suspect that Trevor's little competitive hiney would figure out a way to make it work. So if he qualifies, now it's not like we're playing favorites. He earned it. We set the bar and he achieved it. I would love to see Trevor at a Hondo if he was able to qualify in a way that everybody else had the option, right? I would be really surprised, as talented as Cody McCartney is, I would be really surprised if Cody would put in the time and effort to meet that standard. But what I would love is I would love to have Cody McCartney's horses at the Hondo because he gets to still be him. And so I'm with you. I would love to see both those guys there. it would be interesting to know if Cody would prioritize it enough to make it happen, especially where Cheyenne's going to be there and she's probably going to win 40,000 every weekend.
Well, I was going to say, if his wife's already going, he might as well.
Well,
But I almost wonder, would it be worthwhile to have a qualification system and one spot in each event for an honorary guest? Like, it could be a veteran that hasn't been to a rodeo in a while. It could be someone that didn't make the top 15 last year, but maybe it was because of an injury.
I'm going to say no.
I don't know.
I'm going to say no, and here's why. The first year they had the American, they did that. And they brought guys back that hadn't rodeoed in a while, and it was sad to watch. It was not fun. It didn't make the event better. You saw why they'd retired. You know, here are these heroes that were just the man in their day, and you bring them back and it's like, oh, dang, like all the times undefeated. And I don't know that I'm really excited about bringing someone back. I would almost be more excited about somebody here like, hey, this guy, I'll give you an example. Kyan Wilhite is one of my favorite calf ropers to watch right now. I have so much fun watching that guy. Just his style. I love watching him rope, but he hasn't rodeoed long enough to meet that qualification yet. If you're going to invite somebody, we've got enough rodeo savvy at the Hondo to be like, y'all don't know this guy yet, but this is somebody to watch. You know, you think about it like a Tyler Tryon. It would be worth it to go see a Tyler Tryon. So instead of the older, I would almost lean more towards the younger of like, because those guys are competitive. They've got a chance. Like Kyan could win the whole thing. Tyler Tryon could win first. Bring in guys that are competitive on their way up instead of kind of resurrecting something that's been put to bed.
I don't hate that idea.
So who's your prediction? Let's name names. Who's going to be there that wasn't? Who was there that's not going to be in Phoenix?
As far as names go of guys that were there in New Orleans that aren't going to come back, I'm not going to throw out specific names because I'm going to group them all together. I'm going to say there are going to be a handful of young bull riders that aren't going to be coming back.
You chicken.
That's my call on that one.
Okay.
And guys that weren't at New Orleans that I think will be, I guess John Crimper's my safest bet. I'm going to say him for sure. And I will hope for a couple of new guys in the timed events.
Yep.
What's your call?
Mine is based strictly on horses. You know, I've got a horse training background. Like I think of things in terms of horses. When you look at everything that Adios Pantalones won last year, and then he went down with an injury, I think that I'm curious to see what Trisha does on her horses, if that horse comes back. But she would probably be my pick because I don't know what that horse is going to do this year. If I knew that horse was going to be back, it'd probably change my guess. But I think that Trisha, who was at New Orleans, unless that horse comes back and gets her qualified, that would be my pick for not. And it's not even about her. It's about that horse. I'm such a fan of that horse, like everybody. I've got two of people that were not in New Orleans that I suspect will be in Phoenix. And one's kind of a long shot. One I think is a safe bet. In the timed events, I think you're going to see Tyler Tryon in the standings to the point where you can't not invite that kid. He's won every, I don't think people understand how hard this is to do. He has won first at the majors in the jackpot world this year.
Yeah.
Won the Lone Star Shootout, won the BFI, won the one the other day, won the Brock Crest. Like winning first is so hard. Like to have a good year, you can have a great year winning second, third, fourth, placing along. He's winning first, which is unbelievably difficult. Him and Nikki Northcott, I think, are rodeoing now, and Nikki's just a blast. So I would say in the timed events, I would look for Tyler and Nikki to get qualified.
That would be fun.
An invite. I'm going to go on a limb, and I'm going to say that this year in Phoenix, we finally get Rocker Steiner. Here's why.
Oh, good one.
I just think that guy is not going to be able to stay away from the fun of the Hondo. I think he is such a fun haver. It's so on brand with who he is. I could see where he would figure out a way to be on stage singing or playing guitar with somebody, which, by the way, did you notice they've started featuring like when the artist and the contestant crossover, like instead of like it's starting to get some press. So that's I would say my prediction is that we're going to see Rocker finally. And I know that it's November before the NFR. So I get where a guy would want, especially in the bareback riding, would kind of want to protect his health. But if he's healthy, that's my prediction.
No, I am mad that I didn't think of that before you. Because I totally agree with that. I can absolutely see him coming. And truthfully, yeah, that's a time where you want to be saving yourself. But for that kind of money and for Rocker, I think even more than that kind of notoriety up for grabs, I can see him pulling up. And that reminded me of another guy that we didn't see in New Orleans because he was injured, but he will be back by November is Shad Mayfield. So I'm sure he's going to be back too.
Yep. He's coming back over the 4th. Is he planning on coming back for Calgary? Is that right?
The whisperings are he's going to come back for Calgary. I know he said he might want to come back before then. We'll kind of see, but he'll be back by the summer.
He's accepted invites, I think it'd be hard to not invite that guy. I mean, it's Shad Mayfield.
Agreed.
On honorable mention, and I know I've already mentioned him once, but I watched a video of him again the other day, and I'm like, man, this kid, young calf roper from Texas. I don't know him, never met him, but I would love to think there's going to be a kid like Kyan Wilhite that comes out of nowhere and just has such a year that you're like, there's no way we're not inviting that guy. So,
you know what? Before we move on from that, I'm going to call it right now just to say that I did. Speaking of young guys in the calf roping, I think that Tyler Calhoun's another good one to watch that I could bet will be at the Hondo sometime soon.
very, very possibly. Okay, so I just think of how much fun it would be in the suites down there where we had a video of John Crimber last year just rocking out and having fun. I think he's on somebody's shoulders. Can you imagine what Hondo in Phoenix would be like if you got Rocker and John and turned them loose for the weekend?
Gosh.
Like we might have to fill those spots by the second or third night if they can't get them bailed out in time. But yeah, it'd be the fun of the Hondo really applies to those guys.
Even outside of the Hondo, just like the spot that the Hondo's at, everything's happening in Phoenix at that time of the year. I remember when John Crimber pulled into town the day before the first performance, it didn't take him half an hour to find a way into the Tate McRae concert that was happening across the street at the Stun Stadium. And he made it all the way up to the stage.
Fun haver. He went by himself.
Completely alone.
Yep, fun haver.
So that's how you know when we invite guys like that, you know they're gonna find a good time to have. But yeah, I'm really curious to see who ends up on the roster in Phoenix. But we'll have to replay this and see how accurate our calls were.
So we also have no control over this. We have no vote. Nobody asked us. Our phones do not ring as far as advice. But when you think of the concerts, you know, I saw that Rocker was playing guitar the other day with Midland. We had Zeke singing with Nickelback. Not just an artist, but an artist specifically as it pertains to the rodeo world and a contestant crossover and everything that Hondo is. When you think of the best fit, the artist that you wish, if you got to pick, you could invite to a Hondo, what's the musician, if you had your pick, that you'd invite?
Okay. I remember saying this on another episode before, but I'm just going to say it again to hopefully write it in permanent marker.
Can I guess what yours is?
Yes. You know it. Yes. 1,000,000,000%. No hesitation. That's my first pick every time. And my first pick because you would think, I mean, if you saw my playlists on Spotify, that wouldn't be your first guess, right? I have a lot of different people that I listen to personally. But when I think about the market that we're really trying to hit with the Hondo, we're really trying to bridge the gap between mainstream sports fans, mainstream music fans, and the country and Western industry, right? And so, yes, I love having country artists. I mean, there are so many good and talented and great human beings to pick from, but I really think it would be of our best interest to pull in some mainstream artists that attract a completely different audience to introduce them to the rodeo world. The reason that I think Post Malone's a perfect guy for the job is because he also loves rodeo. So he's mainstream. I mean, he crosses over from the country to the pop to the rap industries. So he can hit all three of those audiences at once, but he also loves the Western world. So he's not going to do us wrong. He's going to want to bring honor to us and, you know, introduce our culture as accurately as possible. The fact that this guy has sung on stage at
the Grammys,
but also sang with Dave Stamey. He's saying Buckaroo Man with a cigarette in his mouth, you know? So that is the coolest crossover that you could possibly imagine. By the way, I think it was at the Grammys, if I'm not mistaken,
I thought that's a story you're about to tell.
Well, there is that, both of those stories. I think that it was at the Grammys that he wore a ball cap from the Spanish Fork Rodeo in Utah. And you guys, that wasn't a paid partnership. Okay. He went to the Fiesta Days the year before. He was on the bucking shoots. He had a grand old time, and he decided out of his own free will to wear that ball cap at none other than the Grammys. So it's also the best exposure we could ask for.
From an artist standpoint, I completely agree with you. Somebody can sit up there and sing the Buckaroo Days. Like, you could put Post Malone at Tom Horn Days, and there's going to be some eyebrows raised, but like, that guy would integrate, right? He's kind of a chameleon.
Yeah.
But what I also think of is not only from an artist perspective, but part of what I do at the events is I get the artist contestant crossover. Like, my job is to try to create as much of those crossover moments as I can. When I think of how much fun Post Malone would have at a rodeo, pulling ropes or standing in the box with people or having people up on stage to sing with him, when you think about the melting pot that the Hondo is, you think of a guy like Post and you're like, man, that guy's his own melting pot too. So first of all, I 1,000% agree.
And then how many people would be more curious about rodeo that wouldn't have been otherwise?
Yeah, he's going to bring people in that don't know
because they're seeing videos of Posty pulling bull reps, you know? So I think that would be, even if it's not Post Malone, someone of that type that comes from the mainstream world that also appreciates ours. You know, that can be hard to find, but I think that it's doable. And I do think that that would be of best interest for the Hondo in order to reach those new audiences is pick some mainstream artists that'll bring a new crowd in. And you know, you look at Houston, that's exactly what they do there. And they have a lot of mainstream artists that come in. And okay, sometimes you'll see, you know, the stadium will really fill up for the concert where it might not be as full for the rodeo, but there are those people that will trickle in during the rodeo, even if they're just there for the tail end of it, that are really there for the concert, and they're going to see something that they might have never seen before.
Yeah,
so it's just a new opportunity to introduce new people to rodeo.
And I agree, but I think that the Hondo has done such a good job of setting its culture where people do get there for the rodeo. Houston, that's just the norm. You get there for the concert.
True.
That's just the established tradition. I think what we're doing will bring people in for the rodeo. I don't think you're going to see as many people like just showing up for the concert at the Hondo, no matter who we bring in. Because I'm a cowboy, or pretend to be one, you got to go. Like I have two. Well, I have one, and then I have a tier. My first one is obviously George Strait. You got to go George Strait.
Fantastic.
And, high school rodeos. What's crazy is George used to put on a concert for the high school rodeo because Bubba rodeoed with us. And I remember back in the day thinking like that was cool, but not realizing what a big deal that was. The second, so George, obviously he's going to sell out. He's got friends that are contestants. He's going to probably hang out at the Resist All booth with Dustin. Like that's just an easy one, right? My second one would be a sub tier, and you can pick the artist, whoever that may be. But like, I think of a guy like Hudson Westbrook that's coming up that has such a cult following. I know his country music, but if you step out of country music, have you heard of Anna Avery?
I'm her biggest fan.
She did.
I love that girl.
She did a cover of No More Tears by Ozzy Osbourne. Somebody like that is just so outside the box to me is such an exciting entertainer. Some of these people, like I got to see at Stagecoach, that you're like, oh man, it would work, you know? Like,
she's an Arizona girl too, so that might not be a bad idea to whisper in some people's ears.
Should we be friends? Should her and I be friends?
I think we're going to be best. This girl also, I will say this too. I don't know if she grew up around the Western industry. I don't know what her background is on that, but the way that she presents herself as an artist too, I think does much honor to our industry. She's everything you would hope for a person to be. So I'm a big fan of that girl. Well, and strategic thinking says you bring in artists that are going to sell tickets. And I understand the business of that. But then once you're established and you know that like the tickets are going to sell out, I think it does open the door to bring in these people that maybe are on their way up. The same way I was talking about in the rodeo world. I think once you have an established event where tickets are selling out, maybe that's an opener. Maybe you have a Hudson Westbrook or an Anna Avery open for someone like George Strait or Cody Johnson or something like that, where we're bringing in and helping establish. Because that's, you think about Lainey Wilson, she played Rodeo Vegas, and then the next year they couldn't afford her. Like, you're going to get some hits like that if you got your ear to the ground. So my white whale, obviously George Strait, because he's George Strait. But second of all, somebody like that, somebody that's like just on their way in, that's just killing it. I think about I can't think of his dadgum name. What's the guy that sings the song Medusa? Cameron Whitcomb. Have you heard of him? There's like guys like Cameron Whitcomb. He was on stage at Stagecoach this year, just a great entertainer. You got guys like the Red Clay Strays that are kind of maybe in the middle. So I guess what I would say is George Strait, and then maybe branch out to something that's a little less established. I almost wonder too if the strategy we take is we choose an opener and a headliner of different genres, and that way you pull together all of the different audiences to experience one thing together. Because I can just imagine how cool would it be to have a night like George Strait headlining, but then having more of a mainstream artist, you know, opening for him, and then you pull together two different audiences all together. And that's what rodeo is the best at, is we have diverse backgrounds and we can make fast friends in the stands because camaraderie is at the soul of what we do. I wish, and this is just me wishing, I wish they would pick people according to how fun they are. Like, are they going to get behind the shoes? Are they going to mix it up? Are they going to go back to the locker room and hang out with our contestants? I wish part of that was considered. Like, are they going to be stuffy? Because without naming names, there are people who are just like, you know, it's a contract and I'm here to sing and then it's over. And then you've got guys who are like, this is awesome. Like Jason and Brittany Aldean in New Orleans had fun. They stayed out there. Like his tour manager was like, guys, we got to go. And they're like, hang on, we're good, you know? And like they hang out, hold their kids up there and watch the rodeo. And those kinds of people are going to really grow not only the Hondo, but the sport of rodeo. And so I wish there was a way to factor that in. Again, we have no say on who gets invited, but I think it would be cool if those sorts of things weren't just like dismissed. Right.
And I don't think
Okay,
they are.
well,
I don't think they are. I'm not saying that we're doing it wrong. I'm saying
I
I would love it if it could grow into more of a diverse approach.
speaking of that, I know we weren't prepared for this, but if you had to pick a white whale of athletes to invite, what would you say
Does it have to be an
would be on
athlete
your
or could it
radar?
be just anybody?
I guess just anyone. I'm just thinking like mainstream athletes of each area that we go to, but I guess anyone. I'm curious who you have on your mind.
Okay. I'll do the same thing. I'll do mainstream like that everybody would know, and I would do a sub tier. I would love for Theo Vaughn to get there because I know our guys would love him, but I know he would love our guys. Like I know he would love our contestants. I know that.
Yeah.
If you get Theo Vaughn in the building, I think he would never miss another one. I think sub tier, there's a guy that dresses as a rodeo clown for the Savannah Bananas. How cool would it be to get him in the arena dressed as a rodeo clown as part of the
We
entertainment for the
have
rodeo?
to.
And it's that crossover. Like you're bringing the energy because Savannah Bananas and the Hondo are not 100% dissimilar. Kind of bucking
True.
the trend, doing new things. So I like what they're doing from a business standpoint. So that would be mine. Theo Vaughn and the rodeo clown. I can't remember his name right now, but the rodeo clown from the Savannah Bananas. What about you?
Oh, dang. Okay, Theo Vaughn was my mainstream person too. I love him. He would be my number one pick too. But as far as athletes go, because I'm
Okay.
always
Then,
trying to think,
hold on. You can have Theo Vaughn. I'll go Sophie Cunningham.
deal, because she would be my second pick too. I love that girl. Okay, athlete wise though, this might be a stretch, and he's a controversial figure. Okay, but imagine I'm just saying this. Go ahead. You're not going to guess it.
Oh, I'm not guessing a person. I'm guessing a genre.
Okay, go ahead.
Somebody you follow on Instagram and you have thought about what it would be like to be married and be Mrs. this person.
Oh, heck not with this one at least.
Okay.
But he's two guys, my two picks. Okay, they're both mainstream athletes. One of them has been around for ages. One of them is kind of fresh on the scene. The one that's been around for ages is the controversial figure, but he has become an absolute meme on social media.
John
It's
Rocker.
LeBron and Bronny. Imagine LeBron and Bronny coming to a rodeo. They would have so much fun. And like I said, yeah, I mean, like he is a little controversial. He's not everyone's favorite, but in my mind, that would just do wonders for us. And I think he'd have a blast.
Do you think he would have more fun, or do you think Draymond Green would have more fun? Because I almost see Draymond being a little less buttoned up. I could see where
Let's
Draymond
bring
would
them
maybe
both. Let's bring them both. Well, the other guy that I had in mind too comes from the football world, and this is on my mind because he actually is from Florida. Fernando Mendoza would be so much fun to have at a rodeo. I mean, he's so happy-go-lucky. He's another one that's become a meme on social media.
Did you just fulfill my prediction?
I'm just saying.
What about JJ Watt? Because he played for Phoenix. Like I think a guy like JJ
That'd be
Watt
cool.
would be, because he's got like a rural background. I think a guy like that would have fun too.
I have quite a few Arizona guys that I would love to bring. That there's just so many. We have to know where to start. JJ Watt would be cool. Kyler Murray. When you think about the baseball world, there are a lot to pick from there.
No to Kyler
I don't
Murray.
know. Oh, imagine Devin Booker.
I tried so hard to be an Arizona Cardinals fan when I moved here.
Hey, it's hard. You can't be fair weather around Arizona.
Kyler ruined it.
But think about basketball though. Devin Booker. If we invited him, if we set up a kissing booth with Devin Booker, we'd sell tickets out the roof.
Well, I think we just guaranteed that Devin Booker's not coming. Good job.
That would be a cool one. But nonetheless, I really enjoy the crossover between, I overuse this word, but the mainstream world and rodeo. That's what we're trying to do here so that we can bring new audiences in.
Well, and it's a different vibe, and I like both of them. I don't know that I have a preference, but it's a different vibe when it's an entertainer versus an athlete, because an athlete sees what we do from an athletic background, athletic training standpoint. And I think there's an appreciation for how hard it is from the athletes. There's a respect that the athletes have that maybe nobody else would have. There's a fun factor with the entertainers that understand that what we're doing is putting on a show. And so they see it from how hard that is to create an environment because they've had to do it. So I think regardless, when you bring mainstream people in, they bring in a different appreciation for what it is that we're doing. So both are great.
I agree with that. And yeah, I think that that's a safe thing to say is we're almost like a crossover between the two because we bring athletes to the table, whether they're human or animals, but we're also putting on a show, like you said. And so it's less of a carnival feel, which is what it has been in decades past, and more of an entertainment, like a high-class entertainment event, like a concert.
Kennedy, so it's the only, I'm going to sound like a hometowner saying this, but that's to me the thing I'm so passionate about with the Honda. That's why I love it here. That's why this is the only thing I would want to do is to help grow the Honda, is because I don't know anywhere else you can go and see that crossover done at a high level in every way. I don't know where you could go and experience what the Honda provides anywhere else.
Well, and the thing is, I think that you can agree with this on my end. We're not in this either for the money or, like when we say we want rodeo to grow, it's not necessarily because we want to add a zero to our salary or, like I do want to see our athletes put on a pedestal like mainstream athletes in the NFL, NBA, MLB. But the main reason for this, for most of us in this industry that have grown up around it, is we're so passionate about it because of the goodness that it has. There's a unique goodness that's found in the Western industry that you can't find other places that needs to be shared with the world. And in my opinion, every issue that society has right now, there's a solution to it that's found in the lifestyle of the working cowboy. So yeah, you're not coming, if you buy a ticket to the Hondo, you might not be coming to a working ranch to watch a branding, right? But you're watching something that came from that. And that's what we're so passionate about because we want to tell the story accurately to as many people as possible and hopefully infiltrate that good into every other part of the society that we know.
I'm so tired of the rural world losing its best athletes. Like if we had a platform where somebody that grew up in a Western background could aspire to rodeo, even if not every one of them made it, it's going to grow the sport of rodeo and it's going to keep rural people in rural. Billy Bray said something I think is brilliant. She said, we take care of the moms because the moms are the ones that are going to be saddling the ponies for the next generation. And so,
Which is so true.
any way that we can preserve the way of life, you know what? I'm going to take that back. I don't like the word preserve because you hear that all the time. I'm going to say enhance and grow and fertilize the good that we do and make it better, not just try to survive. Instead of taking a survival mindset, like how do we drive this to the forefront because the farmers are going to benefit, the ranchers are going to benefit, the people who are raising their kids with good morals and good ethics and all those things. Like we need to see that. And I would actually love to think that in the rodeo world, we could start drawing people out of urban backgrounds that are just gifted athletes that love that way of life, that we're able to not only stop losing our athletes, but start driving some of the athleticism to make the sport better.
It's there.
I mean, I think there's some of that I'm so excited to hopefully see come to the forefront.
I couldn't agree more. Well, I'm really excited. There's a lot of cool things to come. I know we're announcing the lineup soon for Phoenix's concerts. So all of this is gonna, I don't know. We'll have to see. I'm really excited to play this back and see how accurate our picks were because we made a lot of calls today that we'll have to see how they unfold. But I'm really excited nonetheless.
Have we announced yet that Cher is playing in Phoenix or is that not out yet? I'm just kidding.
Oh my gosh, Jordan, I was like, what call did I miss here? Was I not on?
Cher is not playing Phoenix. It was a joke. Okay. Well, Kennedy, I'm glad to be back on track. I love this. This is one of the highlights of my week. I appreciate everybody just making time. And shout out to Sam, who you guys don't see on camera. Sam is the one that makes all this work. And so huge shout out to Sam. We love that guy. Maybe we'll have him on an episode someday.
That would be fun. Thanks, you guys. Like and subscribe and comment what you want to see from us next.